Hong Kong, March 1979. The room smelled like incense and old money. 12 chairs, 12 guests, one private dojo on the 43rd floor of a building that didn't appear on any public registry. No cameras, no press badges, no official record of what was about to happen. Chuck Norris stood on one side of the mat. On the other side stood a woman who weighed 108 pounds, had not lost a match in 11 years, and had just told the room, calmly, without drama, that Chuck Norris would not touch her bra tonight, not because she feared him, because he would never get close enough to try. The room laughed. Chuck Norris did not. He had heard something in her voice that the others hadn't noticed yet. He had heard certainty. Her name was Lee Yen Mei. She was 34 years old, born in Chengdu, trained from the age of 7 under a Wing Chun master in the Amei mountain range whose name, even now, circulates only in whispers in serious martial arts circles. She did not compete in tournaments. She did not advertise her abilities. She had no commercial identity, no film credits, no magazine features. The martial arts world beyond Sichuan province knew almost nothing about her. What it did know, what had leaked through private correspondence and closed-door conversations between masters, was this. She had not been touched in a match in over a decade. 11 years, 14 matches, not one opponent had landed a meaningful strike. The event had been arranged by Mr. Chen Bao-shu, a Cantonese industrialist whose passion for collecting extraordinary martial arts encounters bordered on obsession. He had spent 3 years and a considerable fortune organizing this specific meeting. He had secured both participants under strict non-disclosure. He had ensured the room was small enough that nothing could be missed. Chuck Norris arrived in a black G with no insignia. He was 39 years old and at the peak of his physical life. 3 international titles, a competitive record that had become legend. He moved through the room with the unhurried confidence of a man who had already answered every question about himself. He looked at Lee Yen Mei the way a man looks at a closed door, acknowledging it, but already reaching for the handle.
She was standing near the far wall in plain white cotton, speaking quietly to her sifu. She did not look up when Chuck entered. She gave him no acknowledgement at all. That landed differently than anyone expected. In that room, on that night, it was not Chuck Norris who commanded the space. It was the woman who hadn't looked at him yet. When she finally turned and walked to the center of the mat, the room adjusted itself around her. That is the only way to describe it. People shifted, chairs scraped, conversation stopped. Through the interpreter, she made her announcement. "I have one condition for this match. Mr. Norris will not touch my chest, not my shirt above the waist, not my bra. This is not a statement of fear. It is a statement of control. I will keep that distance for the entirety of this match. You have my word." Polite laughter from several of the guests. One of the referees exchanged a glance with the other. Mr. Chen said nothing. He had arranged the match. He had studied Lee Yen Mei's record. He did not laugh. Chuck nodded once. His expression said, noted. His expression also said, irrelevant. He thought the condition was theater. He thought it was a performance of confidence designed to destabilize him before the match began. He had encountered psychological tactics before. He knew how to wall them off. He rolled his neck. He breathed. He settled into his stance and waited for the referee to begin. He was already thinking past the condition to the fight itself. The first thing Lee Yen Mei did was nothing. She stood in a forward Wing Chun stance, weight central, hands at centerline, feet shoulder width, and she waited. Not passively, not nervously. She waited the way deep water waits, with presence, with patience. Chuck advanced. Testing jab, short, sharp, designed to measure distance. Her left wrist made a small circular motion. His fist veered 2 inches off course. Not blocked, redirected, like a compass needle moved by a magnet instead of a hand. His fist passed her ear. She was already moving. A palm strike, short, vertical, aimed at his sternum. It traveled 6 inches. It landed. Chuck stepped back once. The room absorbed this in silence. He had not expected contact, not in the first exchange, not from her. 8 seconds had passed. Chuck Norris had already been touched. Lee Yen Mei had not. He recalibrated. He came again. A combination this time, real intent behind it. Jab, cross, lead kick. She redirected the jab.
She stepped through the cross, not away from it, through it, inside the arc, where the punch had no leverage. The kick she absorbed by rotating with it, turning her hip into the incoming shin, letting his force travel past her like a train past an open door. His combination had passed through her like she was made of smoke. She countered with a chain punch, the Wing Chun trademark. 6 vertical fists, mechanically precise, firing down the center line. Not designed to demolish, designed to crowd. Chuck covered. His forearm defense was elite, years of drilling, deep muscle memory. But covering was not the same as stopping. He could feel the strikes registering on his arms, small impacts, individually manageable, but cumulative. And beneath the chain punch, he could feel her reading him, testing the texture of his defense, mapping where he was strong and where he compensated. She stopped. She reset. She had collected what she needed. 35 seconds in. Chuck attacked with full commitment, a 3-kick combination, the kind that had ended matches. Lead leg, rear leg, spinning back kick. Power behind all 3. She stepped back from the first. She deflected the second downward with a sharp chop to his knee, wasting the kick's trajectory. The third, the spinning back kick, she wasn't there for. She had moved before he started spinning. She had read the weight shift. She had processed the pattern. By the time his heel arrived at the target zone, she was standing 2 feet to his left, with her hands at center. He completed the spin. He faced empty space. She was beside him, close enough that he could hear her breathing. She wasn't breathing hard. He was. 1 minute and 12 seconds. Lee Yan-mei stopped responding and started deciding. This was the shift the witnesses would remember, the point where the match changed character entirely. She attacked his left elbow. Not his face, not his body, the joint. A precise palm strike to the outer surface of his elbow while it was mid-block, pushing it inward, folding his entire left guard into itself, compressing his defensive structure for a fraction of a second. 1/10 of a second. That was enough. Her right hand fired through the gap, vertical palm, the center line of his chest. It landed clean. The sound in the room was a collective exhale. Chuck absorbed the strike. He stepped back. He recovered. But the strike had landed 8 inches below where his bra line would have been.
She had just shown him exactly how close she could get. He nodded. Not social acknowledgement, a fighter's nod. The recognition that something real had just happened. Only one of the 12 witnesses laughed during that sequence. The rest were still. Chuck came forward with everything. No more strategy, no more measured attacks. He brought the full compound of his martial arts career, every combination, every angle, every technique he had refined across 20 years of training in competition. Jab, cross, body kick, elbow, knee feint into spinning heel. She was not there, not for any of it. Every time his strike committed, the moment his body weight followed her arm, the moment a kick extended past the point of no return, she was already gone from that position. 2 inches to the left, 1 step backward, inside her arm instead of outside it. 14 consecutive strikes. None landed. The journalist in the room, the only press witness, bound by non-disclosure, later wrote a single sentence in his private diary about this sequence. I watched a world champion fight his own shadow for 30 seconds, and the shadow was winning. Then she countered. Chuck threw a high roundhouse, his most powerful technique, the kind that had dropped men twice her size. She caught his foot, mid-air. Her right hand wrapped around his ankle with anatomical precision, not muscle strength, but geometry. She understood exactly which tendons to crowd, exactly which angle gave her maximum mechanical advantage. She held his leg. For 3 full seconds, Chuck Norris balanced on one foot. His other leg, his most powerful weapon, the one moving at full extension toward her head, was locked in the hands of a 108-pound woman from Sichuan. He did not fall. He did not panic. He waited. She released him, cleanly, precisely, with something that looked to everyone present like a teacher returning a student's arm after a correction. He lowered his foot to the mat. 2 minutes and 41 seconds had passed. Chuck Norris had not touched her bra. He had not touched anything above her waist. He attempted a takedown. Shot low, arms targeting her waist, full body weight driving forward. The geometry of a wrestler whose instinct says, change the dimension, change the outcome.
Li Yanmei dropped her weight. Completely. Instantly. Not by falling, by rooting. By redirecting every pound of her mass into the floor through a mechanism that Wing Chun masters call sinking. A structural collapse that converts a standing body into something that feels, to the person grappling it, like trying to move a building. Chuck's arms found her at waist level, but waist level was now 8 inches lower than his momentum was aimed. He went past her. She was behind him. She placed one open palm flat between his shoulder blades. Gently. Not a strike, a notation, a footnote. The physical equivalent of writing in the margin, "I could have finished this here." He straightened. He turned. For the first time in the match, he looked at her the way he looked at serious opponents. Fully. With attention. "You're trained," he said. 2 words. Quiet. She received the translation. She inclined her head slightly. Then she attacked again. The footage was never released. The event records were sealed. What you are hearing now passed through 12 witnesses, 1 journalist's diary, and 30 years of silence. The final 90 seconds were the most technical exchange anyone in that room had ever seen. She attacked his balance, not his body, his stability. Every strike she threw was engineered to shift his weight, to compromise his base, to force a micro-correction that would open the next line of attack. She kept him reacting. She kept him adjusting. She kept him always 1 movement behind. His strikes came. She was not there. Her strikes came. They landed. Not hard enough to damage, hard enough to register, hard enough to prove again and again that she had access to his body that he did not have to hers. The match ended at 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The second referee raised his hand, said 1 word in Cantonese. Enough. Everyone understood. In 4 minutes and 17 seconds, Chuck Norris, world champion, cultural icon, one of the most feared martial artists in Western history, had not touched Li Yanmei's chest. Not once. He walked to the center of the mat. He bowed. Not the polite bow of professional courtesy, a deep, formal bow, the kind with weight in it, the kind that costs something. Li Yanmei returned it.
She spoke to him through the interpreter. "Your power is genuine. Your technique is excellent. But you have spent so many years winning with force that you no longer listen during a fight. You speak. Tonight, you faced someone who listens. That is the only reason the result was different." Chuck took this in. He said nothing for a long time. Then, "Tell her I'd like to train with her." Li Yanmei heard the translation. She considered it. "No, but he may study Wing Chun. He already understands it better than he knows." She picked up her training bag. She bowed to Mr. Chen. She walked out. The room stayed quiet for a long time after she left. No photographs were taken. No recordings exist. The journalist's diary surfaced in 2011 and circulated in private martial arts forums for years before reaching broader attention. One of the 2 referees, interviewed briefly in 2014, aged 71, retired from competition, was asked what he remembered most clearly about that night. He said, "Her hands, the way they moved. Not fast in the way that impresses people, fast in the way that is completely without waste. I have refereed for 50 years. I have never seen hands like that." He paused. "I think Mr. Norris would say the same thing." Chuck Norris never publicly acknowledged the event, not in interviews, not in his autobiography, not in any documented conversation available to researchers. But something changed. In 1981, a journalist asked him, "What is the most important quality in a martial artist?" He said, "Softness, the ability to receive what comes at you without being destroyed by it, to use incoming force rather than fight it." The journalist pushed back, "But you're known for power." Chuck Norris said, "I used to think power and softness were different things. I'm less sure of that now." He never said where that uncertainty came from. 12 people in a Hong Kong high-rise knew. Li Yanmei returned to Sichuan. She taught in a small school in Chengdu until her late 60s. She never sought public recognition. She never competed in an open tournament. Her name does not appear in any official martial arts registry. But her students speak about her the way people speak about things they cannot quite locate in ordinary language. One of them, now a master in his own right, teaching in Chengdu, said this in 2019. "She taught us that the body is not a weapon. It is a question. You ask the question with your movement. The opponent's answer tells you everything about where to go next. She always knew where to go next, always. That is precisely what she did to Chuck Norris in March of 1979. She asked him questions. She processed his answers faster than he could give them. And from those answers she knew, before he moved, before the muscles fired, before the intention became action, exactly where every strike would arrive. And she was somewhere else. She set one condition before the match began. She kept it without effort. Not because Chuck Norris was weak. He was not weak. He was extraordinary. But because Li Yanmei had mastered something that no amount of strength, no title, no record of victories can give you. The ability to understand an opponent completely, in real time, and respond to what is actually happening instead of what you expect. She was never where the force arrived. In 4 minutes and 17 seconds, that truth dismantled the certainty of one of the greatest martial artists in history. And quietly, without press or publication, it made him better.